Confession of a Call Girl by Tatyana Nikonova. Part 1. Iguana 1. My story began a few years ago, back in 2007. I had just turned 17, fresh out of school. I grew up in a small town, barely 100 kilometers from Kiev, close enough to the capital to feel like the stars were just within reach. From as far back as I can remember, my parents would take my sister and me to Kiev, and every trip was a celebration. The parks, the zoo, the shops, and especially the cafes with those magical scoops of ice cream. Kiev felt like another planet, one bursting with color and promise. I was hopelessly, recklessly in love with the city. The sparkling lights, the flashy store windows, the grandeur of the Dnipro River. I was hypnotized. I believed, deep in my bones, that Kiev was where I could be someone. A model, a singer, maybe even an actress. All I had to do was want it enough, and the world would fall at my feet. My hometown felt dull in comparison, a faded photograph compared to the neon spectacle of the capital. I couldn't imagine spending even one more day there after graduation. Kiev was calling me like a moth to flame, but my parents had other ideas. They wanted me to stay, to go to the local technical school like everyone else, graduate, get a stable job, maybe at Dad's factory or Mom's office. Be safe. I said no. Big mistake. My mom screamed. My dad swore he wouldn't give me a penny. And my older sister Nina? She laughed in my face. I backpedaled. A little. But it was too late. I'd said it out loud. I was moving to Kiev. I was chasing my dream. I'm prettier than most of those girls, I argued. And I've got talent. Oh, absolutely, Nina snorted. They're waiting for you at the station, every day. Just dying for Sonia, the next supermodel, to finally arrive. The whole fashion industry's frozen in anticipation. That was her. Always sarcastic. Always so... Nina. By day 5 of arguments and slammed doors, they gave in, with one condition. I had to enroll in a college in Kiev, no university, too expensive. But a decent technical school that they could live with. I nodded. Sure, whatever. Anything to get out. The next morning, I packed my bags. And then came the surprise. They were sending Nina with me to help with the application process. Great, because nothing says independence like being babysat by your perfect older sister. 2. We went through Nina's list, line by line, every technical college in Kiev she could dig up, all neatly written in her little notebook. What about this one? I said, pointing. The machine building one? She asked, raising an eyebrow. That's 4 years. Exactly. You're serious? As a heart attack. Nina stared. I thought you'd want something more feminine, like culinary arts or sewing. 2 years. You get a job, earn your own money. 2 years isn't enough. I shrugged. I want this one. She sighed. It's going to be tough, Sonia. It's not all glitter and runway lights. Machine building, that's physics, math hard stuff. Long 4 years. 4 years, I repeated slowly. And to myself I thought, 4 whole years to make my dream happen. So we applied. They accepted me. I was supposed to return in August to finalize everything, move into the dorm, and start my new life. We went back home. My parents were thrilled, their little girl getting a real profession in the capital. But they didn't know my real plan. August 20th, I was back in Kiev, alone this time. I told Mom I wanted a few days to settle in before classes and to get to know the city. She handed me 1,000 hryvnia, worried but trusting. I added my own savings, 500 more, and for the first time, I felt rich, independent. Except, not for long. I quickly learned that 1,500 hryvnia in Kiev was barely enough for groceries and shampoo. My dream of shopping sprees and fancy outfits, crushed by supermarket receipts and laundry tokens. The real gut punch came when I tried my luck at a modeling casting. A big agency was holding an open call. I walked in and instantly realized I didn't belong. The girls, God, flawless skin, designer heels, lip gloss that probably cost more than my bus ride here, and me, in my budget jeans and knockoff purse, I felt like a scarecrow in a beauty pageant. But I clung to one thing. I was beautiful. My face, my figure, my hair. That had to count for something, right? Until they told us to strip to our underwear and walk. That's when the panic set in. My underwear? It wasn't sexy. It wasn't even new. It was cotton, plain, practical. Suddenly, I wasn't a hopeful model. I was a girl in grandma's panties trying not to fall over on her first runway. I walked, I wiggled, I prayed, then I ran. Straight out of there. No looking back. Later that night, I berated myself, "You idiot. It doesn't matter what you're wearing. It's how you walk. Own it. Strut like a queen in rags, and they'll believe you're royalty." But easier said than done. It took me a full week to work up the nerve to try again. This time at a smaller agency. More realistic. They smiled politely. Asked for my portfolio. My what? I blinked. No portfolio, no photos, just me and my hopeful little smile. They handed me an application form and showed me the door. That night I told Toma, my dorm roommate and instant soul sister, everything. She listened, nodded, and said, "You need a photo shoot. But the money, you need a portfolio, the cheap one, 10 photos, Pitsot Grieven. You said you still had some left, right?" I nodded. "Then do it." So I did. We booked a session. The photographer snapped dozens of shots. A week later, I picked up my first real portfolio. 10 glossy photos in a plastic sleeve. But to me, it was treasure. Toma gasped when she saw them. "Sonia, you're stunning." I grinned. Yeah, I was. 3. Then came Aliona, our third roommate. She was tall, thin, sharp-featured, the kind of girl who always looked like she just smelled something bad. Her lipstick was a disaster, drawn way outside her natural lips like she was trying to fake a bigger mouth but ended up looking like she just finished eating spaghetti blindfolded. Her clothes were expensive, yes. But style? None. She wore everything at once, ignoring any sense of coordination or taste. Rich girl chaos. And those lips? Always smirking. Needless to say, we didn't click. I couldn't imagine being friends with someone like her. In any other life, I wouldn't even say hello. But here we were, sharing a room. Thank God for Toma. And if you think Aliona's icy presence bothered Toma, think again. It only made her more playful. She teased her, cracked jokes, and deliberately got under her skin. "Lighten up, Lenka," Toma would wink. "You'll give yourself wrinkles with all that frowning." "My name is Aliona," she snapped through clenched teeth. "Not Lenka. And do me a favor, Nak, and stop giving me advice." Toma just laughed. "Come on, Sofiko, let's go enjoy the Kyiv night." "Why do you provoke her?" I asked as we walked away. "Why is she so snobby?" Toma shrugged. "I don't like people who act like they're above everyone, and let's be honest, it's fun." "She just doesn't have a sense of humor," I said. "And she's different." Classes started 2 days later. At first, the studying wasn't too bad, but it ate up my whole day. Only weekends were free, and so on Saturday, I went to the photo studio, just like we planned. Toma came with me. I posed for maybe 20 minutes, and a week later, we picked up the results. 10 photos, neatly arranged in a simple folder. But the photos, they were amazing. Toma gasped. "You look incredible." I stared at them, smiling. Yeah, I did. I'd done my first professional shoot, a step forward. Yes, my wallet was now dangerously thin, but I told myself, this is my first investment in my future. Next day, full of hope, I headed back to the agencies, and this time armed with my portfolio. I was sure they'd jump at the chance to hire me, but they didn't. Again and again, I was told the same thing. There are many girls like you, beautiful, yes, but without experience, and we're full. Some even suggested model school, a proper course, 10,000 hryvnia. 10,000. I returned to the dorm, crushed. I give up, I told Toma in tears. I'm done. I'm exhausted. She hugged me. You're just tired. You need to rest. Things will look different tomorrow. No, you don't understand, I sobbed. I'll never make it. They said I need connections or model school, which I can't afford. I paused. Unless I sleep with someone for help, I added bitterly. But who would that even be? Sonia, she said softly, you're spiraling. Breathe, cry it out, then sleep. Tomorrow, you'll feel different. And I did. The next morning, something inside me had shifted. My dream, the bright spark that once lit up my heart, now felt like a cruel joke. I sat in class, taking notes, and thought, what was I thinking? Kiev didn't want me. This world, modeling, glamour, wasn't for girls like me. It was for daughters of rich parents, not small-town nobodies. Maybe I should just study, be an engineer, make mom proud, get a stable job, gain some weight, cut my hair short, maybe dye it purple by 40, live quietly, die quietly. That was the future mapped out for girls like me. Predictable, safe, routine, vacations once a year, maybe local, a few hundred identical photos to show off to coworkers, a life prepackaged in 21-day chunks of paid leave and minimum wage. Did I really want that? Did I really want just that? Sonia! Toma's voice pulled me back. We're late for mechanics. I gathered my things and followed her, still dazed by my own thoughts. Maybe I'm not meant to be anything more, I thought. Maybe I'll just be normal. But a small voice inside me whispered, not yet. I never went home. I stayed in Kiev. The city still shimmered in my mind like a promise I hadn't yet touched, and I wasn't ready to let go. But now, I needed money. So I started working evenings, as a dishwasher and janitor in a small cafe. Every night at 7 p.m. I'd show up, wash dishes until 10, then mop the floors after the cafe closed. Sometimes I wouldn't get out until almost midnight. By the time I made it back to the dorm, I could barely keep my eyes open. After a month of this, I was running on fumes. My grades slipped. I looked like a ghost. And the paycheck? 500 hryvnia, with the advance included. They had promised 700. But the owner just shrugged. It's slow, she said. Not like summer. Be happy with what you've got. I quit that same day. I won't earn 10,000 even in 2 years at this rate, I told Toma. And by then, I'll be a walking zombie. I needed something else, something that paid, and worked nights. Toma gave me a look, half teasing, half serious. Not that, I laughed, knowing exactly what she was thinking. I'm not talking that kind of night work. Then what? She said. Because in clubs, they don't pay girls to dance. Not unless you're a pro. Best case scenario, you get a drink. Maybe. And the girls they hire? Top tier, acrobatic, competitive. How do you know all this? She smirked. I read, I snoop, I listen. I sighed. Then I guess I'm left with one option. She raised an eyebrow. Strip clubs. 2 weeks later, I got lucky. A dancer at a club called Iguana had just quit. They needed someone. Fast. I auditioned. They didn't ask much, just a quick test of my moves, my confidence, how I looked under the lights. And they hired me. 50 hryvnia per night, plus tips, a percentage of whatever I earned during the show. The girls told me some nights the tips were better than the salary. So I said yes. That's how Iguana became part of my life, my first stage, my first descent. At first, it was kind of thrilling. I felt like I was living in some steamy American movie, dancing under colored lights, cash stuffed into lingerie, late-night cab rides through the empty city, sneaking into the dorm through the window like a secret agent, because the dorm closed at midnight. And the club? It ran till 2, sometimes 3. Toma helped. She'd leave the window cracked for me. I'd climb in without waking anyone. Most nights, Aliona didn't even notice, but then she did. How do you manage to sneak in without waking us up? She asked one morning, her voice dripping with suspicion. I froze, but Toma stepped in. She sleeps like a rock, she said. You could fire a cannon and she wouldn't budge. Aliona narrowed her eyes. Where exactly are you all night? She washes dishes, Toma said casually. Night shift. Pays better. That seemed to satisfy her, for now, but she kept watching, and I kept dancing. In the club, I was learning fast. The other girls taught me tricks. How to move, how to tease, how to smile like you meant it. I watched striptease on repeat. Within a month, I could outdance half the lineup. Some nights, I made $150. Real money. I was proud, but there was a problem. A big one. The hands, the eyes, the way men looked at me, touched me, stuffed bills into my panties like I was a vending machine. Some smiled, some leered. All of them believed they owned me, even for a second. One night, I broke. They stare at me like I'm meat, I whispered to Toma. They grab, they grope. One even asked if I wanted to relax after work. Do they think I'm a hooker? Toma looked me dead in the eye. No, Sonia, but for them, there's no difference. But I'm not... You don't sleep with them, sure, but you dance for them. Let them touch you, smile. All for money, that's the line. I was silent. You have to decide, she said. Keep going, or stop. But don't pretend it's something it's not. I looked at my portfolio that night, my 10 precious photos, and I whispered to it, like a promise. This is for you, for that dream. This is the price I pay. The next day, I shared my frustrations with the girls at the club. Angela, bold, loud, and flexible as hell, just laughed. So what if they grab your tits? She said, stretching like a cat. They pay for that, and not small bills either. Relax. Natalie, quieter but razor sharp, chimed in. Long black hair, moves on the pole that made jaws drop. Don't suffer, she said calmly. Just disconnect. Let go. Dance for you, not for those thirsty husbands sneaking out on their wives. Don't feel disgusted, but don't feel aroused either. Be the dance. Own it. I paused. Maybe I'm starting to get it, I said slowly. Thanks, girls. You're amazing. Angela stretched with a purr. I like this job. Love watching their faces, the drooling, the twitching, the way they tremble just to brush my skin. I feel like a snake hypnotizing rabbits. I laughed. Rabbits with their zippers wide open, drooling all over themselves. From then on, every time I went on stage, I saw them differently. Not men, not monsters, just rabbits. Stupid, desperate rabbits. And that helped, but the universe wasn't done testing me. One Friday night, our busiest night, I peeked out from behind the curtain and froze. In the crowd, guys from my college. Panic. I darted back. Toma? I hissed. They're here, my classmates, always in the club. I can't go out there. They'll recognize me. Kshusha, one of the dancers, heard me. Crap, she muttered. Hang on. She turned to Angela. Didn't you have that lacy eye mask? Angela vanished and came back in seconds, mask in hand. Put this on, she said. You're Lady Mystery now. Let them guess. Just in time. I slipped it on and walked out. My body moved on instinct, twisting and bending, hips swaying inches from their wide-eyed faces. But they didn't recognize me. Of course not. Why would they ever expect to see me, shy, awkward Sonia, dancing half naked in a club? That night I was invisible. That night I was powerful. That night I bought my own mask. And from then on, I always danced wearing it. The mask worked like magic. I danced, confident, graceful, almost smug, right in front of the boys from my college. They didn't flinch. They didn't recognize me. Of course they didn't. Who would expect to find shy little Sonia here, wearing lace and leather, moving like she owned the place? They stuffed bills into my lingerie and never looked twice. And when the music stopped, I smiled behind the lace, bowed, and walked off stage. Lady Mystery. That night, I bought my own mask. From then on, I never danced without it. Only on rare occasions, for extra cash, would I take it off. Weeks passed. No one found out. Aliona had gone quiet, too. Too quiet. And that made me nervous. See, with Aliona, I preferred the drama, the snark, the suspicion. Silence? That was dangerous. Saturday night, 3:30 a.m. The club closed late. Some girls left with clients to make extra cash. I wasn't ready for that step. Not yet. I rode home alone. Tired, bleeding, cramping. All I wanted was sleep. I crept to our dorm window, climbed onto the ledge, pushed the frame. It didn't budge. Locked. Aliona. That bitch. I knocked gently. No response. Then, bright flashlight. Voices. There she is. Over here. Don't let her get away. I froze, spun, but a hand grabbed my arm. I squinted against the light and saw her. Aliona, standing next to the dorm supervisor. Stern, gray, furious, busted. Care to explain this, Sophia? The supervisor asked, lips pressed thin. I tried to smile. Of course. You'll explain, in my office. She turned. I followed. Behind me, the night guard, good old Uncle Vasya, kept a hand on my shoulder. We sat in her office, lights harsh, silence louder. Well, she snapped. I'm listening. I was out, I said quietly. At a club, just dancing. Not that kind of dancing, just for fun. She raised an eyebrow. At 3 a.m.? Yes. She stared. My heart pounded. And then, I'll let this slide, she said. But one more stunt like that, and you're out. Understood? I nodded, mute. Good. Now get to bed. Back in the room, Aliona lay in bed, awake, gloating. Toma snored peacefully. I tiptoed, undressed, crawled under the blanket. Silence. Then, you locked the window, I whispered. No idea what you're talking about, Aliona said sweetly. I rolled to face the wall. Next time, she added, there won't be a warning. For the next week, I couldn't stop thinking about it. After hours, the idea of going with a man, for money, selling sex. At first, my body rebelled at the thought. My mind screamed no. My soul, whatever was left of it, cringed. But then I remembered all those random flings, moments of weakness, bottles of champagne, nights when I gave my body away for free just because the vibe was right. And the other girls, some of them were with men twice their age, men with fat wallets and fat bellies. Was there really such a difference? At least I'd be honest about it. At least I'd be paid. And besides, it had been so long, so long, even the thought of a man's touch made my head spin. My body ached for it. At night, I dreamed of it, vivid, erotic dreams that left me breathless by morning. I was torn. I could wait for summer break. Go home. See Ilyusha, my sleepy, reliable boyfriend. Let him clumsily do his thing for 5 minutes and call it passion. Or skip the wait. Head to a Kiev nightclub with Toma, find a hot guy, dance, drink, hook up, no cash, no guilt. Just fun. But deep down, I knew. That wasn't what I wanted. Not anymore. I wanted power, control, choice, and yes, money. That Friday, it happened. I was just finishing my last dance when he approached. Tall, expensive suit, clean hands, confident. Not handsome, but not creepy either. He waited for me at the bar. I liked your performance, he said. Very, graceful. Thanks. You're new? Newish. He sipped his drink. Do you leave with clients? I hesitated. My price is high, I said, surprising even myself. He smiled. I can afford it. Silence. Then I nodded. His hotel room was clean, quiet, high-end, no sleaze. He undressed slowly, respectfully, no grabbing, no rush. And I played the role, confident, silent, smooth. Inside, I was screaming. You're doing it. You're a whore now. This is it. But I shut it out. I let the moment take me. And afterward, I showered alone. He handed me the envelope at the door. I didn't count it, just slipped it into my purse and left. Back in the dorm, I stared at the ceiling. The guilt came in waves. But so did something else. Relief. And a strange thrill. Because I had done it. Chosen it. Owned it. It was mine. That group was new, said Natalie, brushing powder off her cheek. I've never seen them here before, added Chusha, scowling, and I hope I never do again. At that moment, Angela strolled into the dressing room, flanked by Vika and Olya, two of the few girls who didn't do after hours. Angela walked over to me, holding a glass with a sprig of mint floating inside. "Mojito," she said. "From a customer. Said it's for you." I took the glass, still dazed from earlier. "Thanks," I muttered. "But I'm not going anywhere. I'm not in the mood." Angela tilted her head. "Listen, I get it. You had a rough night. Some jerk mouthed off, you're upset. It happens, but that's no reason to ignore a decent guy." "Decent?" I raised an eyebrow. "Yeah, young, fit, not bad looking, real tight body," she winked. "Asked if you could come say hi." "Is he sitting there naked or something?" I quipped. Angela laughed. "Now that's the spirit." Glad to hear sarcasm again. "And no, but trust me, I can spot good muscle tone through a suit." "Yeah, but you girls know athletes, not always packing in other departments," I teased, sipping the mojito. Gasps and giggles followed. Minutes later, I found myself walking toward his table. He smiled before I even sat down. "Glad you came," he said. I almost didn't. "I'm glad you did." His name was Dennis. He was different. Polite, quiet, no sleazy lines, no pressure. He asked about my dancing, not my rate, and I caught myself smiling. Actually smiling. We talked for 20 minutes. He didn't even touch my hand. Then he said, "Would you like to see me again? Maybe not here." I hesitated. "I'm not that kind of girl." "I didn't say anything," he replied, still calm. "But okay, I get it." He handed me a card, just a name and number. "Call if you want to talk, that's all." And with that, he left. No envelope, no grab, no game. Backstage, Angela raised an eyebrow. "Well?" "He's odd," I said, in a good way. That night I lay awake, card in hand, not shaking, not panicking, just thinking, what if this is something else? What if this isn't the next step down, but a step sideways, a detour, maybe, just maybe, a way out? I woke up alone. The bed was cold, the air heavy. I slipped on a robe and wandered into the kitchen. Vitya was there, already dressed, sipping coffee. "Thanks for the great night," he said casually. "Time to wake the others. It's getting late. Everyone should head home." His words landed like ice in my chest. I don't know what I expected. Maybe softness, maybe awkward affection, a little warmth, but not this. I nodded and turned away. "Go on, wake them," I said, grabbing a pear from the counter. He left. A few minutes later, he came back, wallet in hand. He pulled out a few bills, counted 500 hryvnia, and placed it on the table in front of me. I stared at it, and I laughed, quietly, bitterly. He misunderstood. "What? Not enough?" he asked. "Fine, I can add more." "No," I said quickly. "It's not that." "Then what?" he asked, frowning. "I picked you up from a strip bar, Sophia. Let's not sugarcoat it. We had a great time." "I paid you. I think that's fair, right?" "Yeah, right." I nodded. "But?" "Nothing." I forced a smile. 500's perfect. I'll go shower and get ready." Kashusha and I got dressed in silence. The guys said their goodbyes, half-hearted hugs, a few jokes, then the cab ride, then the cold dorm hallway, then the door, and then silence. In the shower, I let the water scald my skin. I tried to wash the night away, not the sex, not the money, the disappointment, that hollow pit where I thought something real might grow. And instead, a transaction. Another receipt, Another reminder that no matter how gentle the man, how slow the hands, how soft the bed, I was still for sale. Back in bed, Toma rolled over. "Fun night?" she mumbled. "The usual," I whispered. "Nothing worth remembering." She nodded sleepily and turned back around. I lay awake for hours, eyes open, staring at the ceiling, thinking about the first time I ever danced in heels, how powerful I felt, how electric, and how far from that girl I was now. Thanks to wise old Toma, I managed to snap out of my spiral. She distracted me with laughter, made me talk about anything but work or men. She grounded me. For the rest of the week, I focused on school, routine, staying sane. And by Friday, when I finally walked back into Iguana, my heart felt light again. No guilt, no weight, no shadows lurking behind my eyes. Just me and the girls. God, I missed them. Over the past few months at Iguana, I'd grown attached deeply to Natalie and Shusha. Natalie had that same no-bullshit energy as Toma. Calm. Director. The kind of woman who could kill you with honesty, but do it with grace. Shusha was the opposite. Soft, glowing, a walking sunflower. You wanted to hug her, protect her, keep the world's filth from touching her skin. We greeted each other with kisses on the cheek and a splash of dry wine, nothing strong, just enough to get the blood moving, as our boss Alex liked to say. "Never go out cold," he'd warn. "Let the body smile before the face does." We laughed, clinked glasses, swapped quick stories. For a moment, just a moment, everything felt normal. My first dance that night was electric. I moved with ease, with joy, not for the clients, but for me. The music, the rhythm, the adrenaline. It was mine again. I was Lady Mystery, untouchable, unshakable. And then I saw him, Dennis, sitting at the bar, watching, smiling. He didn't wave, didn't wink, just looked, calm, composed, waiting. After my set, I stepped off stage, heart hammering. "You gonna say hi?" Natalie asked. I nodded, grabbed my robe, and walked over. "Didn't think I'd see you here again," I said, sliding onto the stool beside him. "I didn't think I'd come," he replied, "but I was in the neighborhood." "And the mojito last time? A coincidence too?" He chuckled. That was strategy." I laughed. "So what's the plan tonight? More drinks? Small talk?" "No plan," he said. "I was just hoping you'd sit with me again." I did, and we talked. For a long time. About nothing and everything. No offers, no pressure. Just presence. Real, easy, strange. At the end of the night, he handed me no envelope, just his coat. "You're cold," he said. "It's late." I wore it on the way to the dorm and didn't give it back. "I have a name, you know," I said, arms crossed. He blinked. "Of course you do. I mean it. Don't call me baby or sweetheart or whatever else you call every other girl you meet. It's just..." "No," I interrupted. "It's lazy, convenient. You don't have to remember anything that way. I get it, but I'm not baby. I'm Sophia." He smiled. That same smile, the one that made it hard to stay mad. "You're adorable when you're angry," he chuckled. I glared. "Why are you laughing?" "Because you're wonderful," he said, softly. "And I like you, Sophia." He emphasized my name, my real name. And just like that, my walls cracked. The martini helped. I felt bold, alive. I stood, walked over to him, took the glass from his hand and set it on the table. Untied the belt of my robe, let it slide off my shoulders and onto the floor. Then, looking straight into his eyes, I sank to my knees. Right there, on the robe, between his legs. His body tensed, but he didn't move, didn't speak. I placed my hands gently on his thighs, pushed them apart, slowly, deliberately, until I was close. Very close. His breath caught, but he didn't stop me, didn't guide me, just watched, waited. It wasn't about sex anymore. It wasn't about tips. It wasn't even about power. It was about presence, being seen, being wanted. not bought. And for that moment, that breathless, trembling second, I felt almost human again. Kshusha plopped onto the dressing room couch, still flushed from last night's chaos. I swear, every single one of them was obsessed, she huffed. Kept saying, I want your ass. Please, let me do you in the ass. Like they were hypnotized or something. What is it with men and that? Natalie rolled her eyes. Kshusha giggled, mimicking one of her clients. Eyes wide, mouth slack, a perfect impression of drunk desperation. I haven't even given it up yet, she said, puffing her cheeks. My butt's still a virgin. Maybe I'll let Igor try, just to see what the hype's about. Like, do gay guys really enjoy it that much? Kshusha, Natalie snapped. Instant silence. Don't talk like that. You sound like a dockside whore. You may work in this club, you may dance and tease, but never forget, you're still a woman. A flower. Don't stoop to street trash just because they offer cash. You're better than that. Kshusha lowered her head, cheeks burning. Sorry, she mumbled. I got carried away. Emotions and all. Natalie softened. It's okay, she said. Just don't let them turn you into something you're not. And that was the thing. Some girls played the role, some girls became it. And the line between the two? So thin, it vanished when the lights dimmed. Later that night, we sat backstage, quiet, tired, reflective. Toma called me. How's your week? She asked. Complicated, I said. Still seeing that guy? Dennis? Not really. What happened? Nothing. Which is the problem? She waited. I exhaled. I think I want something from him that I'm not supposed to want. Like? Affection. Respect. A real connection, and I know I shouldn't hope for it. Not from him, not from any of them. Toma was quiet for a second. Then she said, You don't need to stop wanting. You just need to stop expecting. I thought about that all night. Don't stop wanting, stop expecting. Could I do that? Could I touch and be touched? And still keep my heart intact? Could I love without hope? Could I sell and not lose myself? The answers didn't come. Only more questions. And the deep aching sense that no matter how much lace I wore, I was starting to feel more like concrete. That weekend, I visited home. For the first time in months. And strangely, for the first time ever, I felt like the older sister. Nina, my perfect, polished, know-it-all sibling, sat on my bed, holding up a lacy black bra. Do you think I should wear this? She asked shyly. He said he liked lingerie. I blinked. Wait, was I the one giving advice now? Of course you should wear it, I laughed. If he asked, give him a little something. Not everything, but enough. Let him want. Nina nodded like an eager student. You really think it'll work? It already did. I grinned. He asked, didn't he? She smiled, blushed. I never thought... I didn't know lingerie could change so much. That's the thing, I said. It's not just the look. It's how it makes you feel. It changes your walk, your voice, your confidence. That's what they really respond to. She looked stunned. I tossed her a wink. Enjoy it, sis. Next time I'll bring you something even better. She laughed, glowing. I felt like a fairy godmother. Twisted, maybe. But magic nonetheless. And for a moment I forgot who I was in Kiev. Forgot the mask. Forgot the cash. Forgot the night. For a moment I was just, Sophia. Older sister, confidant. A girl with secrets. But still someone who could make another woman feel powerful. But it never lasts, does it? Kiev was waiting. The lights, the stage, the customers. And somewhere in the back of my heart, the gnawing truth. That I could teach others how to seduce, but I still hadn't figured out how to feel whole myself. We sat in silence for a while. 5 minutes? 10? Maybe more. I had forgotten he was even there. Then suddenly... Sophia, I jolted. Sorry, Ilya said, voice soft. Did I scare you? Don't be silly, I replied. What do you want? He hesitated. I was worried. You haven't been around. Were you sick? You came here to check on my health? I asked, already annoyed. You could have called. It's not just that. Then what? He looked at me like a lost boy. What happened to you, Sophia? Why are you so angry? Nothing happened. I'm fine. Then tell me why you've been avoiding me. I crossed my arms. He shrank into himself, shoulders hunched, eyes unsure, and in that moment I pitied him, sincerely. Ilya, I sighed, I'm just not okay today. Don't take it personally. It'll pass. He straightened a little. Then maybe I can come tomorrow. We'll talk, go for a walk. I wanted to say no, wanted to tell him not to come back, that I wasn't the girl he remembered, and we'd never be what we once were. But instead, I said, fine, tomorrow. That night, I lay awake thinking about him. Not with longing, not even regret, just confusion. Who was I to him now? What did he think he could save? And why was I still pretending to be someone who could be saved? Because the truth was simple. He didn't know me anymore, and maybe he never really did. The club welcomed me like an old lover. Lights, music, bodies, and rhythm. After a week and a half away, I was aching for movement, for the music, for the stage. One sip of a cocktail, and my tension melted. I hit the pole like a storm, spinning, twisting, stretching into splits, climbing high and sliding down like silk. No brakes, no breathers. Just me and the metal. My body remembered everything. My soul thanked me for it. For a few moments, I felt free again. Near midnight, I saw him. Igor. And right behind him, Victor. A shockwave rolled through me. I couldn't breathe. My chest rose and fell like I'd run a marathon. My first instinct? Run to him. Throw myself into his arms. Kiss his lips, his hands, his everything, until nothing else existed. Die in his embrace, only to be reborn there. He didn't sit like usual. He walked right up to the stage. To me. My heart pounded. I turned toward him, locking eyes. And I danced, not for the crowd, not for the tips, for him. Only him. After my set, he was waiting. He didn't speak, just took my hand, led me toward the private rooms. I didn't ask where we were going, didn't care. The room was dark, quiet, heavy. I sat on the edge of the sofa, unsure what to say. But Victor didn't need words. He reached out, touched my hair, then my neck, then lower. He wasn't gentle. Not this time. There was no conversation, no play, no teasing, only taking, possession, and I let him, because some part of me believed I deserved it. Later, as I lay still on the cold leather couch, my body sore, heart tangled, he whispered, "You're mine. You know that, right?" I nodded, even though a voice inside me screamed, "No, I'm not anymore." Shusha lived in a fantasy. She floated in her pink bubble, convinced love was a lollipop, and every man who smiled meant forever. She didn't question, didn't dig, didn't want to know. And honestly, maybe that was her secret to survival. I wasn't so lucky. I was drowning in my own silence. Every time I saw Victor, I told myself, Tonight I'll tell him that I wasn't who he thought I was, that the fantasy he'd bought into was just that, a fantasy. But I never did. I smiled, I danced, I let him touch me, and I stayed quiet. Each time, promising myself, next time. Now, it felt like too much time had passed, too many nights, too many lies by omission. Could I still tell him the truth? Would he believe me? Would he even care? But that day, I decided, enough. If he felt anything real for me, he'd want the truth. And so, when he picked me up that evening, drove me to the love flat, as Kazayusha jokingly called it, I was ready. After we made love, I lay on his chest, heart pounding, and I said, "Vitya, there's something I need to tell you." He tensed. I felt it in his breath, his silence. "Okay," he said carefully. "I'm listening." I swallowed hard. "I'm not who you think I am. I work at a club. Not just dancing. More, sometimes more." Silence. He didn't move. didn't speak. The room was suddenly colder. I waited. 1 second, 2, 10. Then, I know? I sat up stunned. What? I know, Sophia. You knew? He nodded slowly. I figured it out a while ago. And you still... And I still came back. Still held you. Still wanted you. I blinked. So, none of it mattered. He smiled, but there was no warmth in it. It mattered, but not enough to stop. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying. He didn't care who I was, not really. He cared how I made him feel. And I was just a mirror for his fantasy. A willing body, a silent confession booth. He wasn't in love with me. He was in love with what I let him pretend I was. He opened his wallet, counted the bills, held them out to me, and I just froze. So that was it? After everything I said, everything I risked saying, this was his reply? Money? Like nothing had changed? Like I hadn't just torn my soul open in front of him? I stared at the cash, then looked him straight in the eye. Go to hell, I said. Keep it. Call it a loyalty discount, one of the perks for our regulars. Then I turned and walked out, fast. Tears already rising, throat tight, chest aching. By the time I hit the street and called a cab, I was trembling. God, how did I end up in this mess? He didn't come to the club the following weekend, or the one after that. Igor did. Alone. Kashusha clung to him like a vine, full of that same dizzy, desperate sweetness I used to wear like perfume. She stroked his arm, laughed at every joke, pressed close like he was oxygen and she was drowning. It was painful to watch. Did I look like that? I asked myself. Was I that obvious? That pathetic? I pulled her aside. Hey, I said carefully, you're being a little too obvious. You might want to tone it down. Her smile froze, her eyes dimmed. Oh, she said softly. Okay. I felt like a monster. I'm not trying to be mean, I added quickly. I just don't want him to think... It's fine, she said. Really? But I could tell it wasn't. And that made it worse, because I'd just done to her what the world kept doing to me. Slapped the innocence out of her mouth and called it protection. That night, I didn't dance like usual. I moved. Sure. But I wasn't there. My mind kept replaying Victor's face, that blank, detached look, that damned wallet, and the thought that echoed louder than the music. He never saw you, not once. Wasn't this what I once dreamed of? Dazzling dresses, glittering lights, wealthy men, and expensive cocktails, being part of the elite, a high-class escort, the dream version of the oldest profession. But now that the offer was on the table, real, solid, spoken aloud, my stomach turned. How long would it take me to climb to the top tier? Months? Years? How many strangers would I have to sleep with? Old men, ugly ones, creeps, perverts, all for the illusion of glamour? I flinched at the thought, visibly. And of course, Mikhail Vasil'yevich noticed. He leaned forward with a smirk. Calculating the risks, he said quietly. Yes, high income comes with high expenses, and certain side effects. Nothing in life is free. I forced a polite smile. Thank you for the history lesson, I said, and the insight into the world's oldest profession. Big earnings are tempting, sure, but not at that cost. I'm not greedy. I can be patient. I'll wait. I'll earn what I need, Famaiti, without those sacrifices. He didn't blink. Don't rush to decide, he said smoothly. You may find that you're more adaptable than you think. I left the restaurant with his card burning a hole in my pocket. Adaptable. Such a clean, quiet word. It sounded like a job qualification, not a warning. That night, I sat alone in my room, shoes off, wine glass in hand, and I tried to imagine my life as his girl. Luxury, travel, jewelry, silence, numbness, and a smile that never quite reached my eyes. I tore the card in half, then into quarters, then into dust, let it fall into the trash like the fantasy it carried, and whispered to myself almost angrily, I'd rather starve with dignity than choke in satin. He won't remember me. That much was clear. In a month, my face will blur with a dozen other dancers. In 2, he won't even recall my name. All that talk. I can't live without you. You're the only one. It was a performance. A farce. A fantasy built on lust and convenience. Because I was convenient. Easy access, no strings. A girl who'd smile on cue, spread her legs, and ask nothing in return. But I wasn't that girl anymore. He wanted a doll. Let him find one. I was out. I needed more. I'd spent the whole week mulling it over, replaying every word, every lie, every breath. By Saturday, I was convinced we'd had our last encounter. So when he walked into Iguana again, I was surprised, not shocked, not scared. Just, surprised, and maybe somewhere deep beneath the anger, a little glad. He smiled like nothing happened, like I hadn't left him mid-sentence and walked out of his life. "Same place tonight?" he asked casually. I blinked. "Can't," I said quickly. "Headache, maybe food poisoning, or maybe it's that time of the month." He raised an eyebrow, clearly unconvinced. I didn't care. I disappeared into the dressing room before he could say anything else. Kshusha followed me in, eyes wide. "What's going on?" she asked. "You look like you've seen a ghost?" I shook my head. "Just tired." "Did he say something?" "No." "Then why—" "Because I'm done, Kshusha," I said. With him, with pretending, with all of it. And I meant it. For once, I wasn't running from pain. I was choosing peace. Choosing me. "You've got something most girls don't," he said, eyes gleaming. "Now I see why my friend was hooked on you. You know how to work a man up." And then he lunged. No warning, no build-up, no consent. His hands were on me, mouth pressed to my skin, tearing at my clothes like an animal. I froze for a moment, shocked. Then I screamed, loud, raw, from the gut. "Get off me!" But he didn't stop. He gripped my breasts so hard I saw stars. His fingers shoved between my thighs, fast, rough, uninvited. I howled in pain. Something snapped inside me. I twisted, opened my mouth, and bit, hard. His forearm. My teeth sank deep. Blood filled my mouth. He screamed, "Let go!" Staggered back, clutching his arm. "You bitch!" he roared. Then his hand flew. The back of it crashed into my face. I flew backward, slammed into the wall, crumpled like paper. Dazed, bleeding, dizzy. "You'll pay for that," he growled, advancing. "You little whore, you'll pay." He grabbed me again, twisted my arms behind my back, yanked me to my feet. I tried to scream. He shoved me to the floor. I tried to kick. He pinned my legs. And then a door slammed open. Voices, footsteps, chaos. I couldn't make out the faces, just the noise. Shouting, hands pulling him off, arms wrapping around me, blankets, towels, someone's jacket. And then, darkness. I woke up on a couch, backstage. Kshusha sat next to me, pale and shaking. "You're okay," she whispered, stroking my hair. "It's over. He's gone. Maybe, just maybe." It was all a lie. A sick, twisted game from Igor. A power move. A way to get to me. Break me. Because Victor never confirmed any of it. We hadn't spoken in weeks. What if Igor never even passed along my message? What if Victor didn't know the truth? What if he thought I had just disappeared? That hope, small, fragile, flickered in my chest. And with it came a new fire. If everything Igor said was a lie, I need to find out. I need to talk to Victor, look him in the eyes, see for myself. And if it's true, if Igor twisted it all, I'll tell Victor everything. Warn him about the man standing next to him in business and friendship. I stood up, heart pounding. "All right, Alex," I said aloud, straightening my jacket. "I'm heading out. Gotta grab my things, say goodbye to the girls, and I need to talk to someone. I hope he shows up tonight." Alex nodded from behind the bar, always silent, always watching. "Come back if you need anything, Sophia." I walked into the dressing room, a bag slung over my shoulder. Kshusha looked up from her stool, her face still pale from last week's chaos. "You leaving?" she asked softly. "Not forever," I said. "Just cleaning up, closing doors. Be careful. Always." And for the first time in a long time, I meant it. Not because I had hope in a man, but because I finally had clarity in myself. I wasn't running anymore. I was walking forward, even if it meant facing pain, even if it meant hearing the worst. Because anything was better than silence. I locked myself in my room, didn't go out, didn't speak to anyone, didn't want to be seen, just sat there, replaying memories like broken film, and cried. God, I cried, endlessly, violently, not just from pain, but from the sheer humiliation of it all. They didn't just walk over me, they stomped, rolled me flat with a steamroller, just to make sure there was nothing left to stand back up. And the worst part? I still loved him. Victor, even after everything, after every lie, every bruise, every time he looked at me and saw nothing but flesh, I still remembered his hands, not as weapons, but as warmth, his voice whispering things that felt real, his body tangled with mine, our laughter, our madness, our so-called super sex. It made me sick, because it was all a lie, all of it, and I had bought it like a child buys candy. Eyes wide, heart open, no clue of the price. I cursed him, I cursed myself. I cursed the exact minute we met, like a spell I wanted to reverse. And then Igor, that monster, his face, his hands, his voice, the weight of him. The memory made my body flinch, physically. The bruise on my cheek hadn't faded yet, but even when it did, I knew the real bruises never would. They were polished, well-fed, well-groomed, and soaked in expensive cologne. The kind of men whose business cards weigh more than their morals. The kind of women whose faces had forgotten time thanks to very skilled hands. This was the elite. The guests of tonight's special event. They lounged at glossy tables, sipping top-shelf liquor, eyeing half-naked girls and sculpted boys weaving between them like art installations. We all knew the drill. Smile here, wink there, touch a shoulder, laugh softly. Everything seemed elegant. Until it wasn't. The shift always came with the first featured performance, lights down, music low. A girl walks on stage, barely dressed. A man follows, or maybe another girl, and just like that, the masks fall. Those respectable citizens, they became wolves, howling, grabbing, moaning. The air thickened with sweat, cologne, spilled champagne, and the stench of hypocrisy. It wasn't an orgy, it was a parade of depravity. Sade himself would have blushed. We, the dancers, the staff, we watched, some with disgust, some with boredom, some just waiting for their turn. Tonight was one of those nights. Champagne flowed like blood. Rules, drowned in gin. Desire, unleashed like a pack of rabid dogs. I stood there in my mask, a dress that whispered more than it covered, and watched. Not them. Me. Reflected in every polished glass, every flicker of red light, every hungry stare. I watched the version of me I never asked to become. And in that moment, I made a decision. Not whispered, not doubted, not delayed. Just one word carved into my soul. Enough. "Who's the boss?" I asked. "Just a man," Olya said casually. "And trust me, if you saw him, you'd never guess he runs the whole operation." "Really?" "Yeah. Honestly, Mikhail Vasilyevich looks more like the owner of a seedy brothel than the real boss." "I actually thought he was," I admitted. Olya laughed. "You thought the big man himself walks around bars recruiting girls? Please, that's not how kings operate." "Then how?" "He doesn't meddle. He rules. He stays out of the day-to-day. He has people." "People?" "Two," she said. "His right hand, Mikhail Vasilyevich, and his other right hand, Taisia. She's more trusted than anyone. Rumor has it she was once his favorite." "Favorite how?" I asked. "In every possible way," Olya whispered, lowering her voice. "She could be his mother. age-wise, but he listens to her, respects her. Some say she taught him everything. Loose lips sink ships, they say. Well, Olya was practically a goldmine for a spy. She talked and talked, spilling everything without hesitation. I didn't even need to ask. And just like that, pieces of the puzzle began to click. The structure, the chain of command, the illusion of chaos. That was actually cold, calculated order. And me? I was just a pawn, a well-dressed, well-trained pawn on a velvet chessboard. One move away from being sacrificed at any time. She hadn't always been one of us. Turns out she'd been tricked, scammed by a job recruiter who promised construction work. They took her passport, stuck her in a barrack with 50 other desperate girls, made them work for months, no pay, no rights. And when they finally protested, they were kicked out. No passports, no money, no explanation. Just a get lost and a threat. Tell no one or it'll be worse next time. That's how she ended up at the train station. Dirty, starving, completely alone. And Taisia believed her? Kira snorted. Kira, always the loud one. Always half an insult away from a fight. She just bought it? That old fox? I can't imagine her falling for a sob story like that. Olya shrugged. Well, technically, it wasn't Taisia who believed her. It was Inessa. She brought the girl to Taisia. And then what? She took her in, Olya said simply. Gave her a bed, got her cleaned up, found her something to wear. Kira scoffed again, but no one joined her, because the story, sad as it was, wasn't unusual. It happened all the time, especially to girls who came here alone from small towns, chasing money they'd never see. They arrived with hope. They stayed with nothing. And if they were lucky, if someone like Inessa crossed their path before something worse did. That girl, she didn't last long. 2 months, maybe. She wasn't made for this world, not tough enough, not numb enough. Too much heart, not enough armor. But her story stayed with me, because it reminded me, again, how thin the line was between one of them and one of us. A lie, a missing ID, a single wrong turn at the train station. That's all it took, and we all had that line behind us, or in front of us, depending on the night. Inessa burst into the room, dramatic as ever, eyes wide, voice sharp. Olya, get over here, now! Coming, Olya called from the kitchen. Second batch of coffee is almost... Coffee can wait, Inessa snapped. Now. Olya appeared in the doorway, wiping her hands. You didn't tell the girl to pick a name? Inessa scowled. What were you even doing? Painting her nails? I ought to wring your neck. Oh, Inusichka, I completely forgot, Olya said sweetly, folding her hands like she was praying. Forgive me, darling. Won't happen again. Out of my sight, Inessa said, and Olya disappeared like a shadow. And bring the coffee. Then she turned to me, calm, composed, as if nothing had happened. All our girls use aliases, she said. Fake names. So go ahead, choose yours. Real name stays with you, understood? No exceptions. I nodded. Don't worry, your passport stays in your hands. No one's taking it. This isn't like those other places. No games, no withheld pay, no stolen IDs. We're professional. She smiled, like a mother handing out school forms. And pick something good, she added. You'll live with it. It'll be your skin. I thought for a moment. A name, a new identity, a mask with letters. What do you call the girl who walks into the fire and doesn't look back? Margot, I said at last. She raised an eyebrow, then nodded. Margot, she repeated. Not bad. Has a French flavor. Elegant. Expensive. She wrote it down. And just like that, Sophia died, and Margot was born. Inessa's phone lit up. She glanced at the screen, straightened instantly. It's Taya, she whispered, then picked up. Hello? Her face changed. She stood from the table and motioned for me to follow quickly. She's back, she said. "Tacy is back, and she's waiting for us." We hurried down the hallway. Raised voices echoed ahead. A woman's voice, loud, commanding, furious. I could tell instantly. This wasn't someone to be trifled with. Tacia. When we entered the office, the door was already open. The room still smelled like stale coffee and perfume. On the couch sat a woman in her 50s, but clearly fighting the number with every fiber of her being. Bright dyed blonde hair, heavy makeup, fire engine red lips. Her face was powdered like porcelain, white, matte, mask-like. She wore tight jeans that clung to her hips with visible strain, seams screaming under the pressure. Too tight, too young, too much. And yet, it worked. Not because she looked young, but because she refused to look powerless. This was Tacia, the spine behind the velvet curtain, the woman who trained the girls, kept the secrets, and built the empire, one broken girl at a time. She turned toward me mid-sentence, cutting off her tirade with a glance. "You," she said. "New one?" I nodded. She stood, eyes scanning me from head to toe. Not with desire, not with judgment, with calculation. "How old?" 19. She smirked. "They always say 19. I didn't reply. "You're pretty," she added. "But that doesn't mean much. Pretty is cheap. Discipline isn't. We'll see what you have." I swallowed hard. This wasn't the world of Iguana anymore. This was something deeper, sharper, colder. And if I wanted to survive here, I'd have to be all three. The upscale apartments had 2 girls per room, 3 max. But on the cheaper floors, the so-called 3s and 4s, it was tighter, 4 girls to a room. And soon, the owner planned to open a new base to ease the overcrowding. Business was booming. Misery, apparently, was scalable. We sat in the kitchen, sipping lukewarm tea. From where I sat, I could see down the hallway. A man slipped into one of the private rooms. A minute later, a tall, long-legged girl followed. She wore a sheer robe, transparent as glass, and nothing underneath. She closed the door behind her with a kind of elegance I hadn't yet mastered. Inessa leaned in, whispering like she was telling a fairy tale. "That's Amelia. Incredible girl. Only 22, but clients adore her. She's soft, gentle, never raises her voice. They come back to her week after week and won't even look at another." She grinned. "And the tricks she does with them? Lord have mercy." "Is she the one who prefers anal?" I asked bluntly, remembering something from the day before. Inessa chuckled. "Oh, so you've heard. Yeah, that's her. It's her signature. Clients go crazy for it." "She enjoys it? Does it matter?" Inessa shrugged. "She sells it like she does. That's the point." Emilia. Elegant, mysterious, untouchable. The kind of girl who could turn pain into a commodity, who could make submission look like choice, and desire look like dominance. I wondered if she'd always been that way, or if she'd learned, like the rest of us, to wear her mask so well that even she forgot where it ended, and she began. "Meet Richard," Tacia said, her tone half playful, half direct. "He's a professional gigolo, works in our escort division, specializes in servicing wealthy women." She gave a pointed look at Richard as she emphasized women, or rather, ladies, with just enough sarcasm to make it sting. Richard rolled his eyes like a bored actor on his 1000th take. "Today," she continued, "Richard will serve as your model, your hands-on trainer, if you will." My breath caught. She wasn't joking. I was supposed to practice? On a real man? Now? Here? Tacia smiled sweetly, as if she'd just offered me tea. He's been kind enough to lend his body to the cause. The room didn't spin, but it tilted, just slightly, like I'd stepped into a hall of mirrors. Everything here was a reflection, distorted, exaggerated, unfamiliar. Things that were taboo outside, forbidden, shameful, were routine here, discussed over breakfast, performed before dinner. In this house, sex wasn't behind closed doors. It was the door. "Start by undressing him," Tacia said calmly. Her voice was soft, instructional. like she was guiding a ballet lesson. I blinked. Was she going to, watch? She was. Of course she was. In any other life, this would be absurd, humiliating. But here, this was the syllabus. And Richard, well, he looked more bored than aroused. A trainer, a mirror, a human-shaped test. I stepped forward, hands trembling slightly, and began to unbutton his shirt. "There's no other job," Taisia said calmly, "where imitation is more important." Her voice was cool, controlled, instructive. "Play. Create the illusion that you're enchanted. By him, by his body, by his moves. Be thrilled by his erection, by the way he breathes, by the sounds he makes. Perform it all." I stood still, breath shallow. "Simulate joy," she continued. "Simulate rapture. Simulate rising toward ecstasy and time your climax to match his." I swallowed hard. "Most clients know," she said. "They know it's an act. Prostitutes rarely orgasm during a session. But that doesn't matter. What matters is the performance. Because your perfectly timed illusion enhances their own climax, makes them feel like gods." She paused. "But there are exceptions. Like Angela. You've heard of her?" I nodded faintly. "She's one of the few who really enjoys it. No need to fake. She's wired differently. Suffers more because of it than benefits. You don't want to be Angela." A long pause. Then, "All right, Margot," she said. "Let's begin." My skin buzzed, not with arousal, with adrenaline. This wasn't sex. It was theater. A symphony of perfectly placed moans, timed gasps, subtle trembles. A dance of convincing lies. "Try to take him deep," she instructed from behind her clipboard. "And narrate your moves. Out loud." I looked at Richard. He didn't flinch, didn't smile, didn't speak, just waited. Ready, like a mannequin with muscles. I opened my mouth and began to perform.